It's not very loud, isn't it? Can you hear me in the back? It's so, or can we put this louder? It's the maximum. Okay, I'm not going to talk a lot, so I hope you hear me all. Good afternoon, very warm welcome to our session under the Food and Nutrition Security thematic today on socioeconomic development and the food environment. So I'm really looking forward to 5 presentations that we want to have in the next 1.5 hours. We're mainly we are only in Sub-Saharan Africa, and I think we will hear some really interesting case studies. Just for the presenter once more, I know you have this heard before, but it's maybe always good to repeat. You will have 10 minutes for your presentation, and then we will have about 5 minutes or more discussion. So those in the audience, please note your questions that you have. And yeah, without further ado, I would like to ask, he's there. He was just standing there. I would like to ask Yao from Ghana, and he will give us the first presentation looking at giving a more broader overview on farmer participation on the Ghana Commodity Exchange. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of us. I want to tell a simple story. It's about our farmers, grain farmers, poor resource farmers, why they should participate on the Ghana Commodity Exchange. The exchange was set up in 2017 to provide another market platform where our farmers could trade. They often trade in the open market, informal market. But the Commodity Exchange is a formalized, structured market where they could trade there. There are benefits in there. There is price stability, and most often prices get better compared to the open market. So this study is really about why are the farmers, our farmers, not going in there to trade? So GCX, that's the Ghana Commodity Exchange, have established warehouses in various regions, various districts strategically, just to make sure that there's a warehouse, farmers can go and store their commodities, then trade, they store it, it comes at a cost. Then we get a buyer. Of course, the farmers are not the ones doing the actual trading. There are agents, so that these farmers can also have financial security, because if you store your commodity there, you can have a warehouse receipt system where you can use that for a loan. So that is the idea. That's a simple background. So what GCX does now is that they do what we call the spot trading facilities, or spot market, where currently it is corn, sorghum, soybean, sesame, and then rice. And most of us will be aware that for some reasons, we are told our farmers are risk averse. Is that the case? In the case of Ghana, very little is known about the risk attitudes of our local farmers, how they behave in adopting new marketing technology, such as the structured platform where you can trade. But the key problem is that these farmers are not patronizing. They are not participating on the exchange, which is a worry. At the same time, what farmers trade on the exchange compared to what the country produces is so little. In other words, most of our farmers prefer to still go on the open market to trade. They interact, trade, but to go to the structured market called the GCX, very little trading takes place there. For instance, this is in 2018, only 0.12% of maize was traded on the exchange compared to what was done outside the exchange. And in the same year, when it comes to soybean, only 0.26% was traded. So largely trading is outside the exchange, the commodity exchange. Another issue is that on the exchange, we find that prices are getting better. This is for the commodity exchange. In between 2018 and 2019, maize prices increased by 27%. And then following year, it increased by 58%. So if a farmer was to trade on the exchange, they will gain in prices, but they are not there. Compared to the traditional market, the open market, where within that same year period, prices depressed by 26% for maize. The next year, it depressed by, so it increased by almost 15%. So there is an opportunity to trade on that market. Why are they not doing it? So this study actually is trying to contribute to knowledge concerning their risk attitudes. So the main objective is to gain insights why farmers are not going. Is it their risk attitude, their behavior? So we want to look at to examine the risk attitudes of these our small scale farmers, and then estimate the factors that influence their risk attitudes. And the key working hypothesis for this study is that the risk aversion attitude of our poor grain farmers limits their participation in the exchange. That's what we are seeing. Maybe we believe is their risk attitude. That's what is limiting them. So the approach was to do a self-assessment. We presented questions to the farmers. Assess yourself to tell us whether you are the type who is tolerant to risk, whether you are in between or neutral, or you are averse to risk. So in the literature, you will find this expected utility, and this is divided into two, either utility theory or decision analysis. So this study depended on the decision analysis, and we focus on the direct elicitation, where you present wonderful sets of questions to the farmers to respond on their own. So that was what this study did. Our sampling approach, purposively, we look for where warehouses have been built by GCX, because we want to look at why they are not utilizing the warehouse facilities to trade on the exchange. So we picked on 5 warehouses. That's one criteria, so it was purposive. We also went in for 2 commodities, which is maize and soybean. That is the crops. These are the crops that are largely grown by most of the farmers across the country. Then we randomly selected farmers using the Excel rand command. So for what I'm to present, it is only for 250 grain farmers. They traded on the exchange. But this is a bigger study that looked at 600 farmers. But for this short presentation, it's 250 farmers. So these are the locations. For those who know Ghana, you understand. But it's 5 locations, 5 regions, some districts. And for those who traded on the exchange, we had 1,639 farmers across the 5 regions who have some trading business on the commodity exchange. Then our methods. In assessing their risk attitudes, we used a 7-point Likert scale where questions were asked. Then we calculated their mean scores. Then the next objective, or the key one, was to look at what factors really determine their participation on the exchange, where we use ordered probit. Ordered probit because the dependent variable is a scale, is their scores, from 1, which is not willing to take risk. Then the highest is 7, willing to take risk. So these are some basic information, but I want to highlight 3 of them. Few of them, about 35%, have some schooling. So the majority of these farmers have no schooling, basically illiterates. Around 18 years or 19 years of farming experience. And then most of them are smallholder farmers, cultivating an average of, between 1 and 2 hectares. They are the majority, about 64%. Then this is the self-assessment. For lack of time, I'll just go straight to the key points we must highlight. Going through this self-assessment, the study found that these farmers truly are risk averse based on their score of 3.31 on the scale of 1 to 7. They were located around 3.3, which is more of risk averse. That is expected. Then going through the internal reliability and consistency test, just to be sure that these variables actually play a stronger role. They are consistent. The Cronbach factor of 0.91, which is closer to 1, indicates that they are consistent. So this is a graph showing how the responses are distributed on the scale, on that score. Then straight to the second objective, where we look at what key factors would explain their risk attitudes. Let's remember the dependent variable is a scale. So we use ordered logic, ordered probability. But 3 key variables come out strongly. That their level of education, their experience, number of years in farming, and then they having bias available are the major determinants of their risk behavior. So using the self-assessment test, we found that our farmers rank themselves as risk averse, generally speaking. But going through the econometric approach, when it comes to a significant variable like education and the years of experience, we found that farmers were rather risk tolerant. In other words, when the level of education or the years of experience should increase by a unit, we find their risk tolerance on that scale also increasing. But on the contrary, when they have a lot of bias available, then they are risk averse. Bias are there, so they don't want to take any risk because they get a bias. That is what the study found. And the conclusion we can make is that, once for our farmers, their risk behavior is not consistent. In one stream, they will be risk averse. For other times, depending on the situation, they can be risk tolerant. And a study by Kahan 2013 confirms that farmers, based on the need to survive, they could take serious decisions that you and I may say is very risky. So what do we recommend? The onus lies on Ghana Commodity Exchange to play their role. Since 2017, the volume of trading on the exchange is very, very low. People don't know about them. I didn't present it, but in terms of awareness, almost 60 to 70% are not aware of the existence of GCX and their warehouses. Meanwhile, farmers operate within that enclave and they are not aware. So there's a need to really educate the extension agents. GCX should make their plans known. Then the Ministry of Food and Agriculture will now extend it to farmers there to participate on the exchange. The exchange has its own 1 or 2 challenges, which another study confirmed that, but there's a need to break through to get farmers utilizing the exchange. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. So we have a little time for 1, 2 questions. Yes, first here in the middle.
Yeah.
Sorry, maybe online.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Can you please do that?
Yeah. I'm doing fun, and I was wondering, you said that you sent out across farmers who use the exchange and those who do not use it. And I'm wondering, does the risk attitude is significantly different among those who use the commodity exchange and those who don't use it? Because so far I've understood that those who trade are rather risk averse. So the question is, what is with those who are not trading?
Thank you very much. As I said earlier, this study focus on only those who traded, the 250 farmers who traded on the exchange. They are the very ones we looked at their risk attitudes. So the study did not consider those who did not trade on the exchange. The study didn't go that far. 250 trade on the exchange. What is the nature of their risk behavior, risk attitudes? That's what we found out.
Here's one question.
Hello, I'm here very good.
Yeah.
My name is Gila Joseph. I'm a researcher at IASA, Research Institute based in Austria. Thanks for your nice presentation. I'm wondering about the, say, robustness of the self-assessed risk evaluation. How do you have any ideas on how it would compare to, say, experimental methods that are used in behavioral economics and any other ways of assessing the risk persons?
Yes, scanning through the literature, some use the self-assessment, others went the experimental way, and in both cases, they have their drawbacks. When you read the literature, even for self-assessment, they will tell you this is the challenge, biases. When you go to experimental, they also tell you some biases. So where do we go? You know, but from our end, we believe that we should explore that option of self-assessment. Tell me yourself, how do you consider who you are? So we found it to be low-hanging fruit to pick. It was easier for us to approach it that way. Yes. And to answer you directly, the Kronbach factor, we checked for the internal consistency, was quite high, 0.91. The highest is 1, to indicate that the set of questions that we asked are quite consistent. That is how far I can go with this. Yes.
Okay, thanks. We have one last question, because time is up. We run into our coffee break and even the next session, I think. One last question, and for those people online, you have to type in. What do? They type in? Yeah, they type in the question. If you have a question, but for the next speaker, sorry.
Yes, hello, my name is Imre Jorgen from the Alliance for Diversity International here. I would like to know whether you looked into the quality differences of the product between those who trade on the exchange and platform and use the warehouse and those who are not. Is there a quality difference in the product itself?
The study, we went to the warehouse operators, we questioned them. So when a farmer brings his or her commodities, in this case, maize and soybean, it goes through a process. Most often they will tell you it's not of the right quality. They have to dry it again. The moisture content is so high. So they go through the process of drying. You find particles in the grain. So the warehouse will do all this for them at a fee. So that alone is a deterrent for them. The resource poor farmer wants quick money. So whether you traded on the exchange or not is the same story. But as I said earlier, this study only focused on the 250 farmers who actually had the strength to go there to trade. But generally speaking, as we know it, the quality of our grains are not good. Yes, so GCX has a higher standard. They have grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. And the longer it stores, the more we are charged. So farmers really are not too happy, because on the open market, a buyer will buy as it is. But of course, the price is depressed, which these dynamics, I believe these farmers must know. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So there is still one question online, but unfortunately we don't have time for it. Maybe you can have a look, or we ask the person, whoever is asking online, maybe you can send an email to our presenter. I'm sure you either saw it in the presentation, or you just link up, you find his name, and thank you once more. And we directly move to our next presenter. It's Marianne. also from Ghana, or at least, I just want to say, I'm not 100% sure, but she's presenting data from Ghana. Let's put it like this. So we are still in Ghana, looking now more at sustainable innovations in food production, and in a particular case of tilapia fish and some other.
Yeah, and
As
so
I just learned. So you have 10 minutes.
I'll try to.
Both use.
Take the time. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mario, and I'm from Natural Resource Institute in Finland. And can you hear me well? Is it working?
It's not really.
Yeah, it's working, but. Let's try to speak a little bit louder.
Okay, so I'm from Natural Resource Institute in Finland, and I'll be presenting on some food products that we have kind of developed in the project. But in any case, my name is Miriam, and also my colleague Emila, we worked on this together. And for those of you that maybe were in the workshop that we had yesterday, we had a brief talk about Healthy Food Africa project and some of the things we had going on in there, but I wouldn't go too deep into that. But basically in the project, we kind of add some innovative twists to some of the products that is being readily consumed in Ghana and try to make it more accessible to people and also increase the nutritional value of these products. And some of these products include Kobe, which is more of a dry tilapia fish that is commonly consumed in Ghana, but now it's more like Kobe in oil. And you can see from the picture sort of how it's been, how it was kind of developed in the project and kind of as a product for consumers. And also we have another product, fruity soy pancake mix with a lot of dried fruits, as well as adame and okra, which is like adame is jute leaves, and okra, which is cooked and kind of readily available. But in any case, my own aspect of this project was really to check the sustainability profile of these three products and also kind of give fresh insight into potentially improving nutrition, livelihoods, and local security in Ghana, and as well as exploring opportunities to promote its consumption within the context of healthy and a sustainable diet. And so we looked at this in two ways. We looked at the environmental aspect and also the social aspect. And in order to get that done, we applied the life cycle assessment methodology. And basically, for those that are not aware, life cycle assessment is mainly estimating the environmental impact of products from the production stage to the end of life stage. So you can see from the picture, you can really go from the raw material extraction to the end of life, but it depends also on the scope of your work. You don't have to necessarily go through all the cycle. You could also just go through different phases of the cycle depending on your scope of work. But we apply this methodology for the environmental impact and also the social impact. And for that, we looked at certain quantities of this product. So you could see on the right side, the quantities that we were analyzing. And for the environmental impact, I'll just limit this presentation to the carbon footprint. And the scope of this assessment, we could see for the tilapia fish, it goes to the scaling, the gutting, it gets dried, and then we have the Kobe, which is like a dried fish, and then that is chopped, it's steamed, and then we have this beautiful fresh beautiful fish in oil, in olive oil in the bottle. But that is actually stored in a glass bottle, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And as well, we have the adame leaves and okra, the jute leaves, and that is, you could also see the process that we analyzed and where it goes. And this is just like a summary of the processes. And as well as the fruity soy pancake, and you can see all the processes it goes through from the soybeans and all the fruit that goes through the blanching and the milling to get it to the pancakes. And a little bit on the social life cycle assessment. We also kind of looked at it from the product social impact assessment methodology, and that uses more or less like this 5-skill reference skill to really analyze the social impact. So we try to see, is the product compliant with local laws, or is it beyond compliance, or is it like at the ideal performance stage? And for the impact category for this presentation, it's limited to the user category because we have these products and people get to use them. So we try to look at that from the social point of health, safety, and responsible communication. And for the environmental results, so we had, like I said, we had the fruity soy pancake, the jute leaves, and the corn oil, and we had quite distinct results, although it's not like I'm comparing them because they have, at least the okra has a different functional units, the quantity is a bit different, but it's just really to highlight certain things also regarding the packaging. So with the fruity soy pancake, we see that there's not much difference with when it's not packaged and when it's packaged. Same with the okra leaves, the okra and the jute leaves, but for the corn, we could see that there's really a major difference with the packaging. And this mainly is as a result of the glass packaging. And for those that are aware of the glass manufacturing process, there's a lot of energy consumption in this process, and we could see how that affects. So, and this is one of the things we try to look at, like, okay, when we're producing this product and we're putting out in the market, we also have to look at all the different aspects, and packaging is also an important aspect to look at. So what do? Glass is a very good material, it's recyclable, and yeah, and it also keeps the food intact, the taste intact. Plastic, on the other hand, we all know the problem with single-use plastic and how it affects the environment. So this is where we really have to look deeper into it. Yeah, it could seem like plastic is a bit better in this instance, but in the long term, is it really better? But this is a bit limited because we didn't consider the other environmental impact. This is just the carbon footprint. But when we look at maybe toxicity, for example, impact, and how it also affects the marine and the water and all that, then we could probably see a major difference in results. But basically, this is what we have for the carbon footprint, and it also just also make us say, okay, how do we recommend for better use of packaging and also fruits? But in any case, in this case, this fruity soy pancake, it has a higher impact because there's a lot of energy with the drying of the fruits, the drying of the soybean, and also the milling. So there's energy consumed in the process of making this, whereas the others didn't really consume as much energy. So energy was a major production of impact for the fruity soy pancake. And for that case, we recommended that, okay, for the packaging, we could also consider other options like bio-based or compostable packaging, because plastic is not compostable, it's not biodegradable, it's just going to be a waste and it keeps messing up the environment even more. So we try to see what other packaging options can be really beneficial instead of using this plastic packaging. And then also, because of the high energy consumption in this process, it would be nice to also take up some more energy efficiency measures and also maybe optimize the energy use. And for example, in Ghana, there's probably a lot of solar option. We have a lot of sun, so they could also probably get more solar renewable energy usage to also reduce the amount of fossil energy consumed in this process. And then, of course, ingredient optimization. In this case, we could look at seasonally local grown fruits, so that could also kind of maybe minimize the environmental impact a little bit, and also just look at products of fruits with less environmental impact if we are kind of trying to mix and match different ingredients. And of course, consumer education is important because we also have to guide consumers on how to make more sustainable choices and also opt for products with minimal packaging, or maybe reuse some of this packaging so it's not just single use and then dump into the environment. And then for the social part, we looked at the health part. I think health is what is up there. And we try to see really like how do these products really improve the health of the user. And basically this also really just shows that the manufacturer of these products have taken into consideration and try to ensure that they create maximum contribution of health to the user based on the nutritional value of this product. And that's like a 1. So they have like on the right side, so they are kind of beyond compliance level. So that's fine. And on the safety part also, we try to ensure that the products are not causing diseases, allergies. So basically, which also relates to the responsible communication. So all these products, they've already highlighted the nutritional value, the ingredients, the allergen expectations. So that way, whoever is buying it is aware of what to expect. And also, if they are allergic to certain things, they can avoid it. So there's good labeling. They've gotten certification from the FDA in Ghana. So, and they've also ensured that this product is good for the consumers. And just some recommendations regarding that, we still try to ensure that they promote the health promotion of this product and also leverage marketing and educational campaigns to highlight the health enhancing properties of the products, such as the protein, antioxidant, and also the fiber properties, and also to target certain demographics. We all know that sometimes children might be quite picky about certain fruit or fruits, but when you have like this pancake and has all this fruits incorporated in it, then it's easy to get them also to get all the nutritional needs they need. And also on the safety assurance, we try to ensure that they continuously monitor and adhere to the food safety regulations or guidelines so that there's a trust between the producer and also the consumers. And of course, continuously ensure that information about the product is put out there so that the consumers know what they are actually buying. So the shelf life, the storage conditions and stuff like that is put out there. And well, this is an ongoing work. So we still try to see how we can develop these impact categories to take into account the local nuances and context and also engage more stakeholders. For this, for the social part, when we looked at the users, that is, I presented to the users at this point, but we also want to look at other stakeholders and how it affects the broader stakeholders. So we still try to develop and look at all the social impact categories from different perspectives, and also try to keep collecting data to support existing database. So thank you so much. I tried to.
Yeah, I think especially the last point is so important. So very impressive that you managed already to collect so many data on LCA in this context, I think. So you had a lot of challenges with this. I guess there might be one or two questions for Marianne. If not, I would be curious because you showed now for all your products, now for all the different social aspects, you were at +1. Yeah. It seems you were really happy with that, but there's also +2. So what else could happen that it's more, because you said labeling is there, it's clear for the consumer, so what else could happen to reach the +2 then? Is it necessary?
Yeah, it's okay. So let's see. So basically you could see here, let's say, for example, for the safety parts, want to ensure the +1 is that, okay, the company has shown that the product is designed for maximum safety. But +2 is that there's solid science-based evidence that normal use of the product is safer for users or passive users than alternative solutions. Okay. So that's like it's even in a much higher level.
Okay, thank you. Maybe there's one question.
Thank you. I'm going to join again. One question regarding tilapia is just one species. Would you consider thinking that local species would have the same result in the end? Or is it tilapia specific, the result you have?
Yeah, well, for this we looked at Kobe, which is mainly made from tilapia. So, but well, I cannot assume that when we look at other species, it will give us the same results. Except we kind of do the analysis, then I can say for sure.
And the glass bottle was the most important thing. I mean, regarding the LCA, right?
Yeah.
So then it doesn't matter which fish is really inside. It looked like. It doesn't matter which type of fish is really inside. I mean, from the LCA point of view.
Yeah, the thing is that some of these fishes, they are found in different ways. So that then kind of changes things a little bit. Yeah.
Just because the glass bottle was had such a high impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, if there are no more questions to Mariam or the team, is one online? There's a hand online. Okay, then let's take this one.
Thanks, Mariam. There was a graph where you're showing that there was no much difference when it's packed. I think the fruity soy product. Yes, that graph. I wanted to understand why there wasn't a difference when it's without packaging and with packaging. Why is it so?
Yeah, because for this fruity soy and okra, they used the packaging. I can show it in the. So they use just this kind of packaging, this pouch. I would say this plastic pouch. Yeah, and so based on the environmental impact, is because this plastic is really just a byproduct of crude oil. So it doesn't really. It's just a byproduct. It's not like a main product of the production of stage. So that's why it really comes to low environmental impact.
Okay, and CO2, right? Because you were not really looking at
less
the long
CO2.
term. Only CO2. This is
CO2.
really
Yeah,
important, I
exactly.
think.
Less CO2. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you.
Okay. So otherwise, thank you once more, Mariam. Thank you. And with this, I would like to ask Leo Khan. And we moved now to Kenya, and we look into another method, the photo voice, a research method for exploring nutrition and diet quality at household level. And we'll hear about one particular case study in Kenya. And as before, you will have 10 minutes for your presentation. So welcome.
So good afternoon. My name is Simon Domunyokabi. I'm a postdoc at the Edinburgh School of Business, where I'm working on the Living Good Food Nation Lab. And I'm also like a visiting fellow at University College London, where I'm working as a researcher leading a living lab in Kenya called Prosperity Co-Living Lab for Africa. So I want to share with you today like some of the work that we've been doing on the lab that is tailored around co-learning and co-generating knowledge and research using like a citizen science-led approach, but also trying to employ research methods and tools that allow communities to participate in the research and data generation. So the big question is, why do we actually like photo voice? And I think it's because it's like a problem-based inquiry that looks actually to like, and it's people-led, that looks to document things from the perspective and the lived experiences of the participants. And it's a research method actually that democratizes the research process because of the normal power imbalance that exists between the researcher and the researched. So in this case, we try to break the boundaries and the power dynamics that exist in such situations. And the interesting thing is, like, since this information is generated by the participants themselves, the accuracy is more, but also like whatever interventions that you can generate from this information tends to be very context aware, and that also like means it can have a sustainable outcome. The other interesting thing is right now, like in global, there is proliferation of phones and with cameras, and that's actually sometimes, and in Kenya, the penetration of internet services that actually make some of these methods really applicable for collecting data. The reason we work on nutrition is because, like in our work on developing, understanding prosperity, like from communities' points of view, nutrition and dietary security comes out as one of the main things that forms as something like part of the other work we are doing is developing a prosperity index, and like in issues of nutrition and diet, that also like comes very high in terms of the things that people want to be considered in that index. And depending on the diet and what you have access to, that also dictates like what is your health, what is your cognitive function as a child. But also there is other issues like stunting and malnutrition that can have detrimental health, but also outcomes in future. And now, like in Kenya, there is also the other emerging issue, which is like, I'll call it the problem of malnutrition, where you're having cardiovascular diseases, obesity, which will also like pile more pressures on our health system. So actually understanding and trying to tailor the diet at household level promises like more interesting benefits, particularly on the health arena. So this study was like done across 7 counties in Kenya. And what we did is, because it's part of like a living lab, we have like a team of 20 citizen scientists across these counties. Each person was able to recruit people within their communities. And these are the people we've been working with like for the last 5 years. So it's also that we work with on other issues of including environmental farming. And so like we were able to recruit 70 households, and each household had to submit a picture of the breakfast, lunch, dinner, and whatever else that you consume outside the house. So the whole idea was to see like what people are consuming, and that images were shared with me as the lead researcher and another person who worked on the data as a data like a person via WhatsApp, and we tried to curate a list of all this food and what we want to. And then after this one, we had like a follow-up debrief session where we discussed about the various food, what are they composed of, and also what portions were consumed by the various people in the household. And that was also like through also focus group discussion and key informant interviews. So part of it, like, yeah, so what we observe is like, so people are really eager and willing to consent, like to participate, because over that period, only 10 people dropped out. And we had over 900 pictures submitted. And what we observed is like there is high consumption of carbohydrates and vegetables, but all low consumption of fruits and proteins. And some of this actually can be explained by what is happening in Kenya, where you're having a lot of changing in the farming system, people going towards more commercialization. And that what we observe, like people who use like herbicides like glyphosate tend to have like all those traditional vegetables that used to form part of the household food also like disappearing, and people having to depend more on the market. And that also like influences because it's also seasonal. In dry season, like the prices of vegetables and fruits will go high, and meaning like families will not be able to access like good food or like what we call nutritious food. Yeah, and then the other thing is like, yeah, dietary choices at household level were determined by the like access. If you have money, sometimes if you have to buy food from outside the market, but also preparation time, other roles that the food, like people who prepare food have to do, and all those like came into play when you have to, people are considering what to eat at the household level. So I'll just share some of you like the pictures we got. So and like there are loads of them, some similar, some not, and you can see like yeah, there's diversity on what people consume. And from this one, it's also possible to approximate what portions people are consuming, and also what like was in the dishes that they were consuming. And we compared what we got from photo voice versus also like recall method. And we do not see like a lot of differences between the two. You can also still see there is low consumption of dairy products, but also fruits. But one of the challenge we had also like is one group like the miscellaneous ones, like there are some things we cannot really like, especially purchased ones. Like if somebody is consuming like from a restaurant, then there are some items you could not really like know what was in the food, and that will also like create a bias in terms of the food composition, or like when we were grouping the foods. But overall, I'll say like, yeah, there is like, it provides a lot of value in terms of what you can get from photo voice compared to also like a recall method, because for us, we did it for a period of 30 days, whereas then you can have a better picture compared to a recall where somebody has to remember what they've consumed for a whole week. So there are pros and cons also to the same. So just to discuss is like photo voice as a method actually allows people to participate, and the information collected is more accurate compared like to recall method in our case. But also we find like it's very context specific, so you can actually know what's happening in different households and different areas, and that can also be very important for tailor-making like interventions that fit within the context. But then also like, we also have to be aware of some of the challenges that come with it, like fatigue if you have to do it for a longer period of time. But also sometimes you may miss to include some of the household, especially when you have to, like when you're depending with somebody having a phone that has a camera, but also access to internet. But the beauty of it is also like it addresses some of the ethical issues that come in research. And one of the things is we did not want to be intrusive. So we wanted really people to be open and share. And if they are not interested, they can also like drop out. So just to acknowledge the team of scientists, citizen scientists who helped us actually recruit the household, and also in tribute to one of the person we lost during the data collection. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, also to keep the time perfectly. Are there any questions? It's really interesting topic. 1 and 2, 3.
Thank you very much. Andres Chávez from the Alliance of Universities here. Thank you very much for the presentation. I just have 2 questions, very quick questions. You already commented a little bit, but on the table, it was very quick, so maybe if you could comment more on the difference between the accuracy and cost efficiency of the recall method versus this one, if you can have more.
Yeah, so basically what we find is if you tell somebody to recall what they ate 24 hours ago, they can do it really like accurately. But if you have to ask somebody what did you eat the whole week, then that's really problematic, because like, yeah, some people forget what they ate. But what actually we absorb, because somebody's sending, oh, this is my breakfast, this is my lunch, this is my dinner, then you can actually create a really good timeline of what somebody has consumed for a week or for a month really easily, and you don't have like some data points that, oh, I forgot that one to mention here.
And related to cost efficiency, would you find that the photo voice is much more?
Yeah, so like this one, like it depends actually. To me, it's like it needs a lot of time, and then you have to trade off. For us, it's because we are trying to change how we do research and have it being like really pro people and for people. So sometimes then like, yeah, it's something I'm willing to take more now, just to have like people voice and agency acknowledging the research, rather than the extractive version that you do research and you disappear. I'm actually happy for that continuous engagement with the community.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you just drop a quick one? It was very good. Thank you very much. It's just since you did work with farmers, is it possible with this methodology to differentiate the percentage of food that was consumed and produced in the household versus the one that was from outside?
Yeah, so that one we tried to collect through key informant interviews and focus group discussions to know basically what households are buying vis-a-vis what is coming from their kitchen gardens and their farms.
Okay, there were 2 more questions on this side.
Thank you very much. Adiola Esmeni from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. Yeah, I appreciate what you have done. When you compare the 2 groups, what you did with the photo voice as the recall, I don't know if you carried out any tests to see if there was a significant difference along the line or not. I think it's not enough to just look at absolute figures and say that one, they compare effectively with each other. That's one. Then number 2, intra-household food allocation. Were you able to assess that? Did you try to see, okay, what goes to the household head, what goes to the children and what goes to women? And then number three, do you think the fact that people have to defend to you could have influenced their decision to always be? Because sometimes they're looking at food security issues or dietary diversity issues. So they're not eating all the time. But rather than have Dr. I'm sorry, Dr. Ed, and I have to send pictures to Dr. Ed all the time. I mean, because at least present something, even when it's not convenient. I just want to capture that. I like the photo voice, but I really want to see how it fits in or to what extent we can blend with other approaches so that we can really pick up the nuances that we need to deal with. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Actually, we've not done the analysis where we compare between the two, and that's part of like the other work I'm trying to do as I try to write this into a paper. But so I'll try to compare those ones, so I can't report anything. But what I know is like it's more accurate actually when you think somebody, because we can actually tailor everything from pictures. What you're trying to see is basically whether the food groups really, you have the same kind of trends between the two. So that one like is part of the work that I'll do next. When it comes actually to inter-household allocation, yes, we know that one happens, but I think because this group we're working with, it's like a long-term project that's been going on for 7 years now. And it's so like most people are really open with us and sharing what they consume. And there is definitely like, I'll say like in the area we work in prioritization of children and the men, but also like I know some of these issues like, men like are fed first, children, and then women like sometimes tend to come third. And those are some of the issues we try to address as we engage the community in this long-term research that we are doing in Kenya.
Okay, thank you. So these were now 5 questions already. There was one, your hand was up at the very beginning. Yeah, sorry, this is the last question.
Yeah, very briefly. And you also compare and you also compare your approach and the data coming from the pictures with the knowledge analysis done by an expert, by artificial intelligence. The colleagues at IFPRI have now worked with this tool that is called Fry, that is actually collects the pictures from the meals of individual meals, and then they can grasp from one single picture all the not only the commodity that was eaten, but also all the macronutrients and micronutrients associated to that. Whether, for example, it's rice, then they can get the portion of rice, the intake, and associate not only the calories but also the specific nutrients. So that in terms of accuracy, I think you could also compare. And also, and also connected to what she was saying. The accuracy is actually related to not only to the number of food groups, but also to the quantity. So I guess it's not enough to look at the food groups in terms of diversity score, but also on the quantity. Sorry.
Yes, I'll say like part of, I think what I'm not saying I'm the one gonna do it, but I hope like in future people can take part of what you are doing with photo voice and use machine learning for to create bigger data sets that I can actually tell about population-wide dietary trends. And probably that's something I hope will be feasible in future, because then you can generate like a really good insight at population level if you can pull bigger number of pictures from different people. But we've not tried that yet. So.
But thanks a lot for these comments. Very helpful, I think. So I'm really sorry, we cannot take any more questions because it would be really unfair for the last 2 speakers. I think, Yukami, you will be still around, so I guess some people want to talk to you. So I really would like to ask now Rosina to come to us, and we will move to Ethiopia now, or at least she will present about Ethiopia. And to another method, she's talking to us about understanding consumers and retailers' preferences, again for nutritious foods in Ethiopia. And she will talk about a discrete choice experiment approach. Okay, you also have 10 minutes, Rosina. Welcome.
Good evening. Or is it afternoon? Afternoon. Are you guys tired? Yeah. I'm a bit bored and tired. We'll eat into my 10 minutes. So let me skip that. So my name is Rosina Wanyama. I work for the Alliance of Diversity International Institute. I'm based in Nairobi. And today I'll be presenting you some results we did. Okay, can you hear me? Yes? Should I shout a little bit? Not loud enough. Or maybe?
I think this is fine.
Hello? Can you hear me now? Yes, I said my name was now my 10 minutes is starting, right? Yes, so my name is Rosina Wanyama, and I work for the Alliance of Diversity International Institute. I'm based in Nairobi. And today I'll be presenting you some results of the work we did on understanding market preferences for nutritious foods in Ethiopia, urban Ethiopia, using a discrete choice experiment. And this is a collaborative work with colleagues, including Imgad sitting behind. So with those tough questions at the end, please, Imgad will be very happy to help me answer some of them. Yes, thank you, Imgad. And this work was done within the context of the CJR initiative on sustainable healthy diets or SHIFT initiative. So to start off, I mean, we've heard this statement a lot. The current food systems are not good enough. They are not able to provide sustainable healthy diets, and this is evident by the majority of the global population that are not even able to afford healthy diets as of 2023. Now, we know that poor diets contribute significantly to all forms of malnutrition, and the health implications are also evident. And the reasons for these are multiple but interrelated, could be globalization, urbanization, could be issues to do with technology development, and this is even worsened by rapid population growth globally, and also climate change and variability. But we know that markets and the food environments play a significant role in shaping the interface between production and consumption, because these are agents that help move foods from the production side to the consumption side. But so the main question that we ask ourselves is, what interventions at either market level or food environment level can help improve availability, accessibility, desirability, affordability of nutritious foods? And when you look at markets of food environment in general, we are looking at the role of midstream actors, and specifically micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, because these are basically the main vehicles that move these products from production to consumption. And on this for our particular research, we are focusing on retailers, and I'll be using this interchangeably between vendors and retailers, because these are the very last people that interact with the consumers of the specific foods. So the question we're asking ourselves is, what do they sell? For us to design interventions that will address these 5 key points of accessibility, desirability, affordability, and the likes, we need to understand, what are the retailers selling and what are the consumers demanding? Is there any overlap between what consumers are demanding and what the retailers are selling on this market? And this now made us to address some of 3 objectives for this study. One is we wanted to assess vendors' or retailers' preferences and willingness to pay for nutritious foods that they get from their suppliers. And then we also assessed the consumer preferences and willingness to pay for nutritious foods from the retailers, so that we see what are the retailers looking for when they're demanding goods from their suppliers, and what are the consumers looking for when they're demanding these foods from the retailers. And then finally, identify whether there are any similarities or divergences in terms of consumer and retailer preferences. Data for this survey was obtained in Ethiopia, collected this year in urban Ethiopia through a choice experiment design, plus a few questions that were asked in addition to the choice experiment, with 1,280 respondents equally divided between consumers and retailers. And we targeted 3 commodities: tomato, banana, and lentils, because these are like the most popular foods that are sold in these markets. And we targeted small shops and roadside vendors because a prior survey had been done, like a census that was done in Addis, to just document what MSMEs exist and what are they selling. So from this data, we extracted that these 3 products are the most popular, and they are sold mainly in small shops and roadside vendors. So prior to the survey or the choice experiment, we did a key informant interview to identify attributes that the vendors of these 3 particular commodities look for, either vendors and also consumers. And so after that, that is what helped us design our experiment. And the survey was done at market level. Retailers were interviewed at the point of sale. And at the very same point, we also waited for the consumers to come, and we would also interview them at the point of purchase. Now, these are the attributes that we were looking for each of the 3 commodities. For tomato, we were looking at production technology, and this was a proxy for food safety, whether it's conventional or organic. And then we also looked at ripeness, which is a proxy for shelf life. And then there was size and price, which is a cost attribute. For banana, we were also looking at ripeness, and then physical appearance, whether they have dark spots when ripe or they don't have dark spots when ripe, because it is presumed sometimes that the bananas that have those dark spots when ripe are always somehow sweeter than the bananas that do not have dark spots when they are ripe. And then we also looked at size and price. Finally, for lentils, we looked at color, presence or absence of impurities, the cooking time, and purchase price. So the same attributes that were used for vendors are the same that were used when we were evaluating also for consumers for ease of comparison. So the design of the experiment was done on Stata, where we did a full factorial design to combine all the attributes at the attribute level. And then because there were so many, we used a fractional design to select just a subset of what of the full factorial, and this is what was presented to the respondents. I'm not going into details of how exactly this was done because it can take a whole day, but at the end of the day, these are examples of choice cards that were presented to the respondents. So for example, for bananas, at any given choice scenario, you're presented with 3 options. And then once the enumerator is able to explain what the 3 choice scenarios mean, then the respondent is given an opportunity to select at least one of the options that he thinks he or she may buy or likes. Analytical approach, we used mixed logic model. Again, I won't go into so much details of the regression models, but basically it helps us regress the alternative specific constant, which is like the reference category for these attributes, and the price coefficient, and then the specific attributes that we are looking for each particular individual, for each particular commodity. And then willingness to pay is obtained through the coefficients from the attributes and the price coefficient. Now, quickly to results. This is basically the sample characteristics from our data. So mainly, if you look at the vendor level, 55% of the respondents that were interviewed were male. But when you look at the consumers, most of those ones who were coming to buy the products were mainly male. And then at least 70% of both vendors and consumers had at least gotten some primary or secondary level education with very low income levels. So this tells you that basically these are low income vendors and also consumers. Now, to the results from the model, this is a bit complex, but I'll try to make us understand, even those who have not done economics, sorry for the nutritionists, I know, but I know some of you will understand this. So the ANC basically stands for alternative specific constant. What does it mean? It stands for the reference category. So for the tomato that we are comparing with, so we are saying there's a tomato that is produced conventionally. It is ripe, and in terms of size, it is small. So if the ASC is negative, it means the respondents, whether it is vendors or consumers, they do not like the product as it is that combination of attributes. There could be some attributes within that they like, perhaps they like ripe, but they don't like the size, which is small. So it means they would prefer an alternative combination of attributes. So if they don't like what they're being given now, what do they like? Then we come to the parameters down here. There is organic. It means they don't like conventional, but they would appreciate to have organic products. And if you look at vendors, it is the same for vendors and also for consumers. But the coefficient for consumers is slightly higher when you look at it in absolute terms. That means there is higher emphasis that is placed on the preference for organic products for consumers than even vendors. And then they would prefer ripe over unripe. You can see the unripe coefficient is negative. So for tomatoes, they would prefer to have something that is ripe compared to unripe. And then, so if you look at the two commodities, or the two attributes, sorry, organic, that's production technology and ripeness, there is a perfect alignment, because remember we are looking at, is there any alignment or divergence between the preferences of consumers or vendors? So we see that both of the coefficients are going to the same direction, except for the magnitude. So which means consumers are getting what they want from their vendors in terms of production technology and ripeness. But when you go to size, it is only the consumers who would want a mixture of small and large. But look at the vendors. It means that this attribute is not very important for the vendors. So here we see that there is a divergence. There's what consumers want, and then there is what vendors want, which does not align. And then in terms of willingness to pay for attributes that they like, they would be willing to pay a premium. But for those that they don't like, they would require a discount. Now, we don't interpret this. We interpret this with a bit of caution, because remember, this is a stated preference experiment. So even if they say they're willing to pay 78%, it may not, they would require a discount of 78%. It may not be so in actual sense, but it just means that they would be willing to, they would require require to convince them or reduce the price a lot so that they are able to buy and ripe tomatoes. And then for bananas, we see, and then when you look at I forgot this, sorry. If you look at the price coefficient, you see it is negative, which means both of them, they actually prefer lower priced products, all factors kept constant, compared to higher priced products. And then for tomatoes, we also see that they don't like the current combination, but they prefer, so there's an alignment in terms of ripeness between vendors and consumers, because they both dislike the unripe over the ripe. So that is evident for both vendors and consumers. But when you look at the presence or absence of dark spots when ripe, the consumers would want bananas with the dark spots when ripe. But this is not very keen for vendors. And when you look at size, the vendors have a preference for large, but then for consumers, this is not very important to them. So here you can see there is a disconnect in terms of physical appearance, but and size, but then there is an alignment when it comes to ripeness. Okay, 2 minutes, I'll be done. Okay, and then willingness to pay, again, they would require a discount, especially for vendors. They would require a discount to buy bananas without black spots, but they would pay, they would also require a discount to buy unripe bananas, and they would pay a small margin of premium on large-sized bananas. And then lentils, finally, the last product, there is perfect alignment in terms of attributes. They would prefer a red lentils without impurities that cook for less than an hour. And this we see both for vendors and also for consumers. And we can see also for the price, they are very sensitive to price, so they would require low-priced products over large-priced products. Again, in terms of willingness to pay, they'll be willing to pay a premium for red-colored lentils and those without impurities, but will require a discount for lentils that cook for more than an hour. So in conclusion, we can say that generally low-priced products are preferred over high-priced products, and vendors are a bit more sensitive to price changes, perhaps because for them, the objective is profit maximization. And so innovations, whether you're looking at supply or demand or policy innovations that are trying to address issues of affordability would be very important. Ripeness, it came out very strongly when you're looking at banana or even tomato. There is a preference for ripe commodities over unripe. And this could be an indication that there is underdeveloped market development. The vendors can bring the products, but then if they don't have proper storage, cold storage facilities, then they will not bring a lot of these products. They will just bring little enough just to serve maybe for the day or two. And therefore provision of improved market infrastructure may be necessary. Food safety is key, as we've seen from the demand for organic products for both consumers and vendors. And it means that vendors are actually responding to the demands of the consumers when you look at it from in terms of food safety issues. So innovations that can promote food safety are welcome. And very finally, there's an overlap in some of the attributes that you see, but a disconnect in some. So it is important to address to look at interventions that are at MSME level that can address those preferences, especially where there is a disconnect. If interventions address those, then we can increase supply. And then there is need for more evidence on what consumers want. As you can see, we're only looking at 3 non-price attributes, but there are so many attributes that one could look for. But because of time and the resources and the design of the experiment, we only looked at 3 non-price attributes. And very finally, again, there is need for increased nutritional education. Sometimes consumers may demand what they actually do not know in terms of nutritional content. So if we educate them more, then perhaps their preferences may change in relation to nutrition. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So you, well, ate into your question time, but so we can have one quick question. Can you use this microphone for answering the question?
Yes, you can use it.
Yeah, because the question is in the very back.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Siri Fani from the University of Kassel. So a very short question. In your result, I'm wondering how you will get minus vendors or minus consumers. Is it coefficient or means? Thank you.
The minus is basically a discount. The plus is a premium that you're willing to pay over and above the market price. It shows a positive. That you require a reduction in price, that is a discount, that is why it's showing a negative. So it's just the direction, whether you're paying more or you want to pay less than the market price.
I'm just curious, tomatoes and lentils, are they staples in the community when you carried out the study? Why focus on those? Because it didn't come across me as crops that may be of high importance to consumers or to households. Thank you.
Yes, lentils are very highly consumed in Ethiopia, and they are consumed along with the staple, the teff products, injera, for those who know it. So it is the main stew that accompanies injera. So from the prior survey that had been done, when we analyzed, we found that these are the 3 products that were most sold on those markets. That's why we went for those. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Once more. Just have time left for our last speaker, so I welcome Irene to come to the floor. We move back to Kenya, and we have one final presentation now on organic farming and commercialization of fruits and vegetables in one specific county, in Makueni County in Kenya. So, which microphone you want to use? This one? This one is better. It's better. Okay, you have 10 minutes.
I'm just confirming it's indeed 10 minutes that I have.
It will be.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Irene Induli from Kenya, presenting on organic farming and commercialization of fruits and vegetables in Makueni County. So just to give us a mind tour, most of us who've been in the global south must agree what we've fed on has passed through the hands of smallholder farmers. But have we ever thought of what goes into their pockets after all the hard work? And beyond me and you, we have our brothers and sisters within the informal settlements, the slum areas. Have we ever thought what they eat, where that food comes from? Do they have the choice and knowledge of what food they're putting on the table, or it's a matter of price that determines what they eat? So that is going to drive our conversation today as we look at commercialization of these products and if our farmers can benefit from the sales. So agriculture in Kenya, as in many parts of the global south, is a backbone of the economy. For Kenya, it accounts for 20% of our GDP, and more than 7.5% of the farmers are in the rural areas, which is about 70% of the rural population. There is increased demand for food due to increased population size. How is this demand met? That is a question worth asking. And for that demand, do we ensure production is safe? Food safety knowledge for that is critical among our consumers, including these informal settlement dwellers, so that we ensure it's just not food for purposes of getting full, but I'm eating food that is healthy and useful for my body. So another aspect is empowering these farmers with knowledge and skills to ensure that the foods they produce are safe for consumption. So that's just a picture of some rural farmers producing vegetables and also a nutrition education session taking place within the informal settlement. Maybe at this point, there's questions going on. Why are you talking informal settlement? And the topic is about Makueni. This is now an overview of the entire project. These are just results of part of the project. This is answering one objective of the 4 objectives of the project, because the main topic of the project is piloting an organic food systems in Kenya by connecting vulnerable consumers. That is where the informal settlement comes in. Within Nairobi, a place called Viwandani, and the small-scale producers in Makueni. And the project is being conducted by a consortium of 3 partners, the Alliance of Biodiversity International and CIET, who are overseeing the overall operations of the project and the research components. Then we have the Feedback to the Future organization that is mandated with training these farmers on regenerative production of foods, specifically fruits and vegetables, and that is in Makueni. Then we have Diabetes Awareness Trust, who are enlightening these consumers on choice of safe, nutritious foods, especially related to the connection between NCDs and diets and how diets can help reduce the effects of these NCDs. So what is the end game in all this? We would like to develop a regionally healthy, inclusive, and regenerative food systems based on organic food production within the dominant food systems. And just to run through the objectives of the project, 1, we want to increase consumer awareness, which is done by Feedback to the Future. Diabetes Awareness Trust. We also want to ensure these rural smallholder farmers benefit from their labor within the farms. And that's why the Alliance is coming in to co-create a model that will ensure that reducing the value chain between the farmers and the consumers, so that the farmers benefit more from their produce, and then ensuring access to safe and nutritious foods for these small vulnerable consumers, because many a times you find that their choice of food is based on what they can afford. So if we can make this food accessible, safe food, but at an accessible price, to ensure that we are all at a place where we can eat what is safe and not just food for the sake of eating the food. So this is now the study area. We were working within Makueni County. Nairobi is in brackets just for the reasons I've mentioned, the connection between the 2 areas, but the results are within Makueni County, and we worked in Kilome sub-county, the 2 wards that I've mentioned there. And the area is really faced with adverse weather conditions. Water shortage is a key thing. And that's why learning how to produce with the what is available within the community is key. These are just photos of ways in which these farmers are trying to survive to produce daily consumption, food for daily consumption, and also sell what is left within their produce. So this is how we conducted the study. We conducted a diagnostic survey to just assess the farming practices, existing markets, and market integration among the producers in Makueni. We did a purposive sampling because we wanted to learn to see these farmers that have been trained by our partner Feedback to the Future, what are they doing and how are they doing it? So it wasn't just any farmer. Yes, it's a rural community where almost everyone is farming, but we purposely went to the farmers that have been targeted. We targeted farmers that have been trained by our partner, and they've been trained on diverse farming practices, including water conservation, soil management, crop cover, just to ensure that they adapt their farming practices to the conditions with which they live. So we picked farmers from the 2 wards that I mentioned earlier. So out of this frame of all the farmers that have been trained, we selected a number that took part in the study. And then the participation was voluntary. We assessed a total of 172 farmers. And this data collection was done in November last year. So to the results, most of our respondents were female. Their age, you notice it's not really much about youth within the group. You notice majority of them are grown, nearly 50 years. Elderly people, maybe it could speak to access to farming land. A lot of issues may be arising as a result. And then level of education, very few of them had beyond secondary education. Majority who had not completed, had completed their primary education. And then household size, the mean was 5. And we also looked at the land size allocated for production of both fruits and vegetables. These are factors that we looked at because they'll play a role in further analysis that we look into just way ahead. So our focus was in fruits and vegetables. 84% of the farmers that we interviewed produced fruits. 65% produced vegetables. There's a 54% that produced other foods, and mainly we had staples, maize, cassava, and some legumes. We had some peas, we had green grams and others. And then for those who produced vegetables, these were the main vegetables. We had kale, spinach, cowpea leaf, amaranth, and that is in order of priority. Then among fruits, we had mangoes, avocado, pawpaw, banana, orange, in that order as well. So we went further to ask these farmers who are producing the fruits and vegetables, what was their choice criteria? Why did they choose to produce whatever they were producing? So for most of them, what was preferred by the family members is what drove them into producing what they're producing for both fruits and vegetables. The nutrition and health value of these crops was also critical to a good number of them. If you just look at, because our main thing is looking at commercialization, we look at, for vegetables, most preferred by buyers was ranked the least. And also among the fruit farmers, we look at preference by buyers came in number 3, and availability of markets was the least reason. So basically giving an indication that sale was not really a priority that drove their production of these fruits and vegetables. So among those who produced the fruits and vegetables, we asked those who sell, I don't know, can that, oh yeah, it's visible, right? Household selling vegetables and fruits here. So out of the 111, 36% sell their produce, and we also have 59% who sell the produce. That may explain the low choice of market preference as a reason for producing. So we sought to find out who are exactly the people who buy the produce. Most of them were just consumers within the area. Sell to outsiders was at a minimal level because we categorize retailers locally, meaning within the vicinity, and we also had non-locals. We had learning institutions, and also you see brokers were also playing a critical role in the purchase of this produce, which again has an impact on the price because the broker will buy at a price that they can go and sell at a better price. So the gain does not get to the consumer, to the producer who's put in the work. And you notice this is in fruits, vegetable, there was no sale to external markets. It was mainly from within the area. So we went further to look at now these other attributes, the socio-demographic attributes of our farmers, and see how do they influence the likelihood or not of selling of this produce. And we notice with the logistic regression, all factors put at play, there was no really significant influence in the sale of this produce. So basically there is more to it beyond someone's sex, beyond their age, beyond their level of education, household size, and land allocation for production. There is more to it that we need to look into to ensure that these farmers embrace the sale of what they produce for them to benefit from it.
So in conclusion, one, remember the farmers we dealt with are farmers that have been trained on organic production. So basically the knowledge of organic production, regenerative farming is well known to them. So despite all this knowledge, commercialization is at a minimal level, and then socio-demographic characteristics of these farmers really don't play a major role in influencing their engagement with the markets. So there is need to further understand functioning and existing market networks to establish linkages that empower our smallholder farmers and also ensure a supply of safe and nutritious foods to all, and especially those who are vulnerable within our communities. Thank you very much. This is just to acknowledge the donor of the project. It's being funded by Vision Switzerland, and it's a 3-year program that started in 2023, ending in 2025. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Irene. So yeah, we have some little time for questions. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. My name is Orhan Sarıyer. I'm postdoc at the University of Copenhagen. I'm just curious. So we find that since demographic characteristics, so these characteristics that you test, they don't influence the decision to sell their product. I find this conclusion a bit more general. You know, it's that the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. You don't observe this here, but so it doesn't mean that it's not there. But so in this case, what defines that? If it's not these characteristics, I mean, how do people select in the selling and not selling? What was your final conclusion there?
The first line of thought is prioritization of own consumption. So does it mean we need to enhance the scale of production so that there is enough for consumption? So when you think of it nutritionally, that is a plus because we produce to consume. So most likely there is dietary needs are met within the household. This is just but an assumption. But again, they need to earn a living because most of them depend on this production and some meager jobs to earn a living. How can they maybe expand their production so that beyond own consumption, there is an income to meet other needs? So yeah, it could be consumption is a priority. That is number one. And number two, maybe limited production because of maybe lack of input, lack of knowledge, lack of interest, maybe other factors.
Okay, thank you. There were 2 more questions here.
Again, for me, with big enough sample size, everything is significant. So the fact that you don't have significant coefficient here means could mean that you don't have enough sample size. Just that. Because how did you select? So did you run power calculation to be sure that your sample of 172 is representative of your overall underlying population? So that's I think that's the main problem I have. It's connected to that. I see these variables like okay, then you find the sample big enough, but then what is the indication? So what are the conclusions? Because I see here there are only control variables, they're not policy variables that you can affect, right? So what is the variability if we find also that there's some variables would be significant with again with enough sample size?
So like I think I got a bit mixed up. The question is the sample size or
No, this was.
Yeah. No, essentially the 2 questions are related in the sense that if you have a census of all your beneficiaries, then this coefficient will be significant. So the fact that you don't find any significant coefficient here doesn't mean that there is no effect, because with a big enough sample size, you will find an effect. If you have done the power calculation, accordingly to the representative of your underlying population. And even if, that's the second question, even if you find a big enough sample size of your underlying population, these variables that you're looking here are not policy variables. There is nothing you can do to increase. I mean, maybe you can increase education, yes, but these are control variables. In other words, they are not variables you can affect with your intervention or with anything. Thanks.
You want to answer this directly, or? So somebody from the project here, or I'm from the project.
Thank you, indirectly involved. So if you go to that particular area, you will find that the farmers are very homogeneous characterized. So yes, we can increase the sample size and increase, and yes, then we will find significant differences in the parameters. But that is actually not the question. But why don't we accept at this stage, these farmers participating in the program are more or less equal? Statistically more or less equal. Now, what is happening is that within this group, we do have the ones who are selling and participating in a market and others not. And the question here behind is what makes them more different apart from the social demographics? What triggers that they're actually participating in markets? And some of these are participating in markets because they may have more experience, or they may have the means to do that. And what we notice also among those farmers here, some just don't have the means to get themselves organized in a way that they access the markets, and that's where the project will start. So how do we link those farmers now to a market in Nairobi where they potentially have to sell a buyer? While in that environment, in that particular environment, to find the buyer is very hard. That's basically at the moment the status, no? So yes, we can triple, quadruple the number of farmers, and then at one stage we will find significant difference in the social demographics. But for this project, this is not relevant. They are participating in a program of the particular NGO who are training them on organic farming, and still we see differences in the behavior, but they are not related to this point.
Before clarifying, so there's one last question for Irene, maybe.
Thank you very much. I think you touched on part of it. My question is not to say, are there markets already for such products? Well, but when you talk about commercialization, I was expecting to see a level of market orientation. What percentage is actually sold? Or how do you measure the commercialization index? We have not seen that here. Maybe you have it somewhere. And then you have measured commercialization from the output perspective. Sometimes the output perspective can actually be may not give us a clear picture. If they're already related with the input side, it's part of it. So did you also check the level of commercialization with respect to the input side? Thank you.
Okay, the input component we looked at is one, the trainings they receive, and if at all they are receiving any farm produce, I mean, any seeds and incentives to produce from our partner. But beyond that, this was just to assess what is existing. The main thing is co-creating with the producers and other market actors. As I've said, these are just part of the results. We have results from other market actors that we shall put together. We shall come together to develop viable market linkages for these smallholder farmers. I hope that answers you. All right.
Yeah, I just want to suggest maybe you meet now over coffee and maybe you can continue with the history team here. But I guess thank you so much for all your questions. Thanks a lot. Enjoy your coffee and the rest of the talk. Managed everything. Only that this, I think. Yeah, no, of course, you know, that's nothing. But I think this is when we solve this somehow. No, I checked that there were no more questions online, right? Yeah.